Hello everybody, E here. Welcome to a spoiler review. I need to make this very clear up front. This is a spoiler review. I will be talking about the entirety of this book from the opening page all the way to the final page, and that is Joe Hill's King Sorrow. So once again, from here on out, this video is going to be nothing but spoilers for this book. And if I see anybody down in the comments saying, "Oh my god, spoilers," I'm just gonna laugh because that's funny. You know how I am. Anyways, on with the review. Okay, so we are starting with the first book in this book of books. This book is 880 pages, and we are starting with The Briars. The Briars opens up with Arthur. Get it? Wink wink, nudge nudge. Arthur of Arthurian legend and all that. You get it? Okay, I'm glad. So The Briars is about Arthur, and Arthur's mom is currently in penitentiary. And the reason she's in penitentiary is because she, through no fault of her own, got somebody killed. Now, I believe it was a police officer, or it might have been a security guard. That I'm a little fuzzy on. I did read this a while ago. So I wanted to let it sit and digest and just talk about the things that I remember the most. Through no fault of her own, she was doing some, what you want to call it, one of those, not protest things, but she was trying to do protesty stuff. And she ended up getting somebody killed. She ended up in penitentiary. And in the penitentiary, there is another character named James Nicewander. Henry Bowers. Let's just go ahead and say that up front. This is Henry Bowers. This is the Henry Bowers character of King Sorrow. So he goes to visit his mother on the same day that Jane Nicewander, which sounds a lot like Knight's Wander, like Knight Arthurian legend. Anyways, she, at the same time he's going, her kids and her oldest daughter and her youngest daughter, Tana, and I forget what the other daughter's name was, and her boyfriend, they bump into Arthur there, and they find out that he works for this library that has really, really unique books. And one of those books is by a guy named Enoch Crane, and that book is bound in human skin. Very much reminiscent of, let's see here, what is it, heart-shaped box, that kind of deal, but there is no, if you've read that one, I don't want to spoil that one here, but if you've read that one, it's kind of the same setup. This item is cursed, and they want that book eventually. They blackmail him, saying that the oldest daughter says, if you don't do this, then my mother is going to kill your mother in prison. So he keeps stealing books. They keep not being happy. They keep, pressing him and pressing him. They even get it to a point where they plant something in his mother's cell so that she can't get out on parole any earlier than she's supposed to. And things really go downhill from there. So his idea to fix this whole thing is to summon King Sorrow. Now, am I skipping past a lot of this stuff? Yes, I am. There's a whole ritual. There's this whole thing with Elwood Hondo, which is a character that in the book is talked about where people use their imagination to summon somebody, a ghost of something that doesn't exist. So it's 100% imagination. They're using their imagination to summon King Sorrow into their world from a place called the Long Dark, or the Prim, if you will. He never calls it the Prim, but it is the Prim. If you follow the trail of breadcrumbs in this book, 100% the Prim from Stephen King's Midworld. It's just called something different. Just like when King worked with Straub and the Talisman, the territories are 100% Midworld. Are we on the same page? Good. We're going to talk about all that stuff, how that connects to Stephen King's universe, and how he builds on that lore next Saturday. We're not talking about it today. But I will say I have 15 pages of notes about how it connects, so that one's going to be a long video also. Anyways, they end up summoning King Sorrow, and King Sorrow's deal is this. You give me a name of someone you want murked. I'm going to murk that person. The only way to stop me is to let me murk one of you guys. Okay? Now, it goes on. This is the longest chapter. This is the longest book of the book. is like 260 pages. You're really getting to know the characters. So Arthur has a couple friends. You have Donna McBride and her brother Van. That's short for Donovan McBride. You have Guinevere. You get where I'm going? There's this little subplot in there that I really, really enjoyed, and I thought it brought a lot of tension to the whole thing, because you never really know whether or not Gwen and Arthur are going to be able to get together, and especially once King Sorrow literally says, hey, if you profess your love to Arthur, Gwen, I'm going to murk him. So this entire book, there's a bunch of tension whether or not they're ever going to come back together. Arthur, pretty much, it's alluded to that he lives a monkish life, that he has run off to England after the events of the first book, and that he has he's shaved his head, he's got a full beard. Let's see here. I think that's my favorite part of the first book. Is the relationship between Gwen and Arthur and getting to know everyone else. There are a couple more important characters. There is Allison Schreiner. That's her nickname, Allie. And then you have Colin, who is your tech bro. He is your Elon Musk. He is your Zuckerberg. He is your Jack Dorsey from Twitter. He is all of those people rolled into one with the same kind of attitude as those characters, but that doesn't come until later on. So they summon King Sorrow, and this King Sorrow, it's every Easter they have to pick somebody, no matter what. So they get together and they're like, hey, look, maybe we just pick the most terrible people. As Saddam Hussein's brought up, Osama bin Laden, several different people, so on and so forth. That section ends with the death of the imprisoned lady's oldest daughter and her boyfriend. Is a really, really cool scene at a drive-in. They're on the run. King Sorrow likes to play with people because he feeds off of fear. Sound like anybody else you know. So the more terrified you are, the better you taste. So he keeps on terrifying these two people for an entire year until Easter drops, and then he kills them. But throughout the entire thing, the entire book, not just the first book, there is this feeling that they are doing horrible things, and I really like that, because it's like, who are we to play God? Even if we, it's kind of like that old thing where, if you could go back in time and kill the man with the funny mustache, if you could do that before he, becomes who he is in the late 1930s, 1940s, would you do it? That's basically the conundrum throughout this whole book. Are the people that they are going after, are they innocent people? Has someone, tricked them into going after these people, or are they actually terrible people? So then we get to the second part, and that completely on all of this is kind of like a mosaic novel. So a mosaic novel is you're going to get each and every chapter or part of the book is from a different character's point of view. In the very last chapter, it does become kind of omniscient and it jumps around between the other characters. But then we go into the second one, which is Flight or Fight. And if you guys don't know, where is it? I don't have it handy, but there's a anthology put together by Bev Vincent and Stephen King called Flight or Fight, and Joe Hill himself has a short story in there. This is a running theme throughout the entire book, where he has named each and every book inside this book after one of his family members' books. We on the same page? Okay. So in Allie's section, which is one of the cooler sections, Joe Hill tries to accomplish what his father did in the Drawing of the Three. Make a truly thrilling sequence with people that are stuck on a plane. In the Drawing of the Three is, of course, the drug smuggling scene with Eddie Dean and Roland. In this one, it is Allie and which one is it? Is it Donovan? I think it's Van, yeah. Allie and Van are stuck on a plane. They think they are safe because King Sorrow is supposed to protect them. He's not supposed to kill them. But the trick, hobbits of the whole sequence is if he kills them while he's trying to uphold his end of the bargain, like kill other people, then they die. That's it, over and done with. He does not have to protect them from himself. He only has to protect them from other people. Also, King Sorrow loves his riddles, like someone else we know, Blaine the Pain. So he loves to riddle, and that's how Gwen ends up screwing up, and she can't profess her love anymore to Arthur because she lost the riddle contest. Now, She stumps him at some point, but there is something that happens where she loses, and she can no longer love Arthur. But in the second one, Allie runs into this agent. It's never, well, actually, it is, the shop is mentioned by name. There's also something called Division 19, and this guy works for that guy. It's like Thermopylae, I think, is the name of the company, the company of mercenaries. So he knows Allie. He's trying to. He thinks Allie is a terrorist. He thinks Allie and Van are terrorists, and they're going to try and bring down the plane. At the same time, there's this cult leader who is known to do cult leader type ish. You know, that he likes going after the younger members, that kind of stuff. I don't want to spell it out for you. I'm sure you understand. So going after this person. And there are some amazing scenes, and this is where I wanted to stop and talk about actual sequences in the book. The scene where there are literal F-16s, fighter jets, fighting a dragon in this scene. I made several updates on Goodreads about how Joe Hill commits to the lunacy of having a dragon in modern age. He absolutely commits. This isn't like a Rain of Fire thing. They're not on the ground fighting them. There are actual F-16s fighting a dragon, and the way Joe Hill keeps, like, okay, like his shadow is on the moon, or you can see him fly between, just a very brief instant, flying between the planes. So many cool things without really showing you King Sorrow. And I thought that was a really cool part of this section also. You get bits and pieces that make this dragon seem world-ending large. Now, he's not. He's about the size of a really, really big, like a cargo plane. But the way Joe Hill does it throughout, you see his tail, you see his claws, you see his mouth, you only see his eye. That one is a lot. Like when he's trying to terrorize people, you see the eye like on the television, in the closet, in an open doorway. It's really cool, and I like the way he did it. Instead of just full on, straight up saying, okay, this is what he looks like. In It, even Stephen King pauses at one point in time and explains Pennywise, not the entity known as It, explains Pennywise every single bip and bobble, every single thing on him, from the tufts to the hair to the shoes to the whatever, and the closest anyone's got to it has been the Skarsgård version of Pennywise in the Andy Muschietti Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 of It. Now, King Sorrow is... I think the only criticism is, but I think it's actually meant to be this way, to give him like, it's kind of like Randall Flagg always joking. That's what King Sorrow does. He's always got jokes. He speaks in modern terms. It's not like doth and thou and all that other stuff, even though he's an age-old entity, or he's supposed to be. But remember, he is an entity from their imagination that they have conjured. It's not that he actually existed, but bringing him into existence makes everything else from his lore come into existence, like trolls. And we're going to get to that stuff. Now, right here, I'm going to talk about this in the Stephen King video also, but Stephen King got the idea for It. He was walking across a bridge, and he remembered the story of the 3 billy goats gruff. And the troll that lives under the bridge, and he, says, hey, I'm going to eat you, you can't cross my bridge, kind of thing. So, in this one, you literally have that. Joe Hill expands on that idea that these creatures come over, and then our own imagination, our fear feeds them, but our imagination bolsters them. The more terrified we are of them, the better we taste, but at the same time, the more we think about them, the more real they become, and I absolutely love that idea. I'm going to talk about it even more in the Theorist video next Saturday. Okay, so in that one, they kind of succeed, and then the government becomes entangled in the whole thing. They land the plane in Greenland, I believe it is, and then they go through a disinformation kind of camp while they're there, telling them, hey, look, nothing that you saw was real. It was this, it was that, it was other things that we've made up to cover up the story. And that's where that part ends. Well, we are also introduced to a character whose name, I believe it's Robin. The character of Robin interested me a lot because it kind of like, it almost felt like Hill was killing... I don't know, that he knew he was going to be murking some people, and he still needed an extra hand. So he brought Robin in, and Robin is is a character that becomes more involved with Arthur later on, but we'll talk to that when we get to that. The next section, remember the theme here? Everything's named after his family stuff. Yeah, so we have the third book, which is double feature. And if you don't know, most of you probably do not, unless you're a big Stephen King nerd like me, his other son, King's other son, Owen King, wrote an absolutely fantastic book called Double Feature. So there we have. This is, I guess, not really the tribute to Owen, but this is Owen's wink and nod. So in this one, in Double Feature, you have Donna and Van, the twins, who end up getting kidnapped and taken away because Van, with the help of the Robin character, publishes a book about what really happened on that plane. And the government doesn't like that, so they send in the shop, Division 19, Thermopylae, whatever you want to call them in this one. They bring those people in, and they get taken off to a place, something island or whatever. It's a government compound, and they're stuffed down in the basement of a government compound, and they're like, okay, well, we need to know, we want to weaponize King Sorrow for our own purposes, so we need to know how to summon King Sorrow. We need to know what we're in for, and they're not going to let them go until the point, that they tell everything they know about King Sorrow. Which you meet a couple of other characters that don't really come into play much. They pop up again every now and again. But from the shop, I'm just going to call them the shop. They're called Thermopylae something. It's one of those organizations that get government contracts to do nefarious shit overseas. But they'll work for anybody. So in this one, it's a very slow burn for this one. It's one of the shortest one. I believe it's the shortest. I think it's the shortest. It might be just the same length as, I don't know. It doesn't matter how long it is. But in this one, they keep them, and they figure out that neither one of these people, they're so close to each other. They love each other so dearly. They also love their friends so dearly that they're not going to give anything away for King Sorrow. All the time, their friend Colin, the tech bro, has been working in the background with these people, trying to get them let loose, rada. Somehow, and I believe it's alluded to that Colin is the one that dropped the names, he gives King Sorrow their names, the people from the shop. King Sorrow comes down and lays waste to the entire place, but not before Van commits suicide, so that they can no longer use him to get Donna to tell about King Sorrow. That one broke me, man. I really liked Van as a character. I really liked the back and forth between Donovan and his sister because they were two completely different types of characters. You had Donna is this character who, when she was a child, she watched her best friend get into a van with some strangers and get kidnapped, probably messed with, and then murdered. So Donna has this very conservative mindset, this very, no matter what, bad people have to go. That's it. But she's also of the Republican set, so she has all those trappings, all those things that make the current Republican a current Republican, that kind of thing. Now, so Van kills himself. King Sorrow comes along and murks everybody, except for one person and Donna, and that one person goes on to work with Colin. And they made a deal, whatnot. Colin wouldn't give up the name because, he needs them. And then Colin ends up getting the government contracts. You see where this is going? So the tech bro, the Elon Musk of the situation, is now working with the government to do things across, overseas to make sure that, certain countries behave, so on and so forth. He's using King Sorrow for those purposes. But it comes out that he's not using them really for those purposes. He's just using them for his own gain. At the end of this section, there is more of a breakup. You see the group of friends starting to splinter off. And that's when we get to, after that one, we get to The Trap, which is from Colin's point of view, and this one is easily my favorite section of the entire book. But first, who wrote something called The Trap? That would be Tabitha King. That would be his mother. Tabitha King wrote a book called The Trap. what it means in this one. The last one was double feature because you had the twins. In this one, it's called the trap because Colin is setting a trap. Unfortunately, the trap is not for who we want it to be, King Sorrow. The trap and the biggest twist of the book is that Colin ends up murdering Arthur, which with a sword that Arthur thought would be able to kill King Sorrow. And just the whole sequence with they end up hunting down and finding, using Colin's tech stuff, they end up hunting down and finding an actual troll. These trolls put on glamours so that they look like human beings. This one is a porn-addicted troll, or porn-addicted derelict or vagabond, homeless person, whatever you want to call it. But you can see like bits and pieces of the actual troll in the character. I thought that was really cool. And so the troll takes them down to this place called Arthur's Stairs, which are literally supposed to be, I believe, the stairs that Arthur climbed to do something. I'm not familiar with the Arthurian legend, so I mean, I'm sorry if I don't know exactly how these things connect, or if any of the stuff that happens underground connects to that stuff. I have no idea, but here's the cool stuff that happens. First off, they go down a tunnel that has spiders painted on the walls along with candles. As they're going along, the troll, Stuart Finger, or Stu Finger, or Svanger, is the name of the troll, so his names allude to the pronunciation of his actual name. This troll is leading them down this dark underground path, and the farther they get into the path, the more of the troll comes out. The bigger he gets, the more his skin is turning gray, the tusks are starting to show, all that cool stuff, right? And like trolls of legend, all the way back to Tolkien and beyond, this troll is afraid of sunlight because it will turn him into stone. So both Colin and Arthur are equipped with I think it's a high thrower, it's called the Kree high thrower, and it's a flashlight that can mimic the rays of the sun. It's so I think it's UV light. I'm not sure. Once again, I don't know anything about this kind of stuff, but in this world, anyways, there's a flashlight, and I'm sure it actually exists. But there's a flashlight that has UV rays that is almost as bright as the sun, or mimics the sun, that can make the troll turn to stone. So they use that to intimidate the troll, to get them to take, or so it seems. When they go down this hallway, the spiders this part really got me, man. It's one of my, this is why it's my favorite part, is because I am terrified of spiders. I hate spiders, and I don't really care too much. It doesn't really set me off if it's like a life-size spider, not life-size, a giant spider that's the size of a human being. That doesn't really upset me. So like Shelob from the Lord of the Rings doesn't bother me, but actual spider-sized spiders, those set me off. I hate spiders. When I was a kid, I was locked into an old closet. A friend of mine locked it in there, and inside that was a bunch of baby dolls, like Victorian porcelain dolls. And it's like something out of a horror movie. I turned on the light, literal spiders like scurrying everywhere across and out of the mouths and faces of these Victorian dolls. They were fully articulated. The eyes moved, the mouth moved. I guess they were more like marionettes. But it come crawling out of every hole. Terrifying, right? I was like 9 years old. It was bad. It was really bad. So I don't like spiders. This one, as they're going down, the spiders painted on the wall start to come alive. And they're crawling in and out of Colin's mouth. They're just everywhere, man. And I had to put the book down 3 or 4 times because it was triggering me. Finally, one of them, I can't remember which one of them, it's like, if the spiders come alive, so can the candles. So they snatch the candles off the wall, and they use the candles to burn away the spiders. Really cool concept. Then they go into this next area, and I'm not really sure on what this area looks like, but I do know there's a huge pit or an abyss, and suddenly they just start dancing. Like, they can't control it. They're jucking and driving, you can't, it's obvious there. I know I'm stammering all over myself, but this part was really cool, and I get like this when I get excited. So they're dancing around, and it's really obvious that they're both about to die. Like, like one of them is going to go off the pit. The tension of that scene was off the charts for me, because I was like, oh, which one of them is going to die? It's about time for somebody else to die. Van's already gone. It's off the table. Any of these folks can die. It's probably not going to be Arthur, because he's more of a main character, so on and so forth. Like I told you guys already, he dies. But that isn't until after this. And then you find out that the whole time Colin and Stavanger, whatever the hell his name is, you find out that they were in cahoots the whole time. But it's kind of like an enemies becoming friends to get the same thing, and that's what happens here. So they find this crypt that has a bunch of different items. There's this vial of blood, saint blood, that can be used to heal a person as long as there's still some of the blood left. And then there's a sword, and there's another item. I don't really remember what the other stuff was. But Colin, unfortunately, uses the sword that Arthur wanted to use to kill King Sorrow to kill Arthur. He then puts Arthur into the crypt that they found, where they found the sword. He puts the sword back. Also, he needed Arthur, someone pure of heart, to draw the sword, like Excalibur. It's like the sword of strange holdings, I think it's called. So he needs someone pure of heart to go down there and grab the sword. He gets the sword, he stabs Arthur with it, and then he puts everything back into the crypt and says that the troll is the one who probably murdered Arthur. What he tells everybody is that the troll grabbed onto to Arthur's feet and dragged him off into the darkness. But then more years pass. You come to find out that this whole time Colin has been using the saint's blood to keep himself healthy. So now, that whole section, man, the imagination is off the chain, and this is what I really enjoy about Joe Hill for the most part. He usually takes his ideas to a terrific conclusion, but his short stories really don't have that. They're more of like, just a slice of horror, and that's fine if that's what you're in the mood for. But he seems to have lately taken his really, really good ideas. Some of his short stories are either cover songs or they are amazing ideas that don't go anywhere, when he used to fully commit to these things. In this one, he is back to fully committing, and it is not entirely a cover song. There is a lot of stuff in here that is very reminiscent of Stephen King, and yes, I made several videos saying that, but that didn't mean that I wasn't enjoying the book. I just wanted to see Joe Hill do his own thing, and he did enough of his own thing in this one to make me happy. Okay, now we go to the second to last book. Well, I don't know if you want to call it second to last, because the last one only lasts like 30 pages. It's kind of, I don't know, mixed up. Let's see here. Hang on. Give me a second. Yeah, and then this one, Save Yourself, is Gwen's chapter. So we get, how are we going to figure out a way for Gwen to save herself? In this one, she finds out through a roundabout means, with Robin included. Robin actually finds the troll, finds out what really happened, and tells Gwen what happened to Arthur. So Gwen starts doing her own research and comes to find out what I mentioned earlier, is that this section is very much... I screwed up here. It was Allie in the second one. If I didn't say Allie was the second book, then I apologize. Anyways, so we've gone through everybody but Gwen. Now we're on Gwen's section. And Gwen confronts Colin, and Colin gives King Sorrow, on Easter, gives King Sorrow her name. Now she has to figure out a way not to get murked by King Sorrow. And I've heard some of you comment about how badly this ended. I don't agree with that opinion. I think that it was the natural, not really natural, but it was a good place to go with this, setting everybody against each other. And even the best part of this final section is Donna redeeming herself. And I really, really loved that section. They find out a way to summon Arthur as almost like Excalibur. They draw him like a sword from the beyond and use him to fight King Sorrow. The section in the library that they bring it all the way back around, it's the library that Arthur was having to steal books from, they bring it all the way back around, man. And I really love a circular narrative that ends where it begins. That's why I am a big fan of the Dark Tower series, how the Dark Tower series ended. Do I like all the books in it? No, I don't. Do I like the majority of the last book? No, I don't. But I do like the way it ends, because it fits the story. When you're given all of the stuff that has happened throughout the entire book or books, when you get to the end, it fits. It does. At least in my opinion, it does. If you don't like it, that's your right. That's all I really have to say about that. But the fighting, the scene where they were fighting this dragon and he's swooping around and he got claws coming in, crashing in. It's almost like a castle. The library is almost built like a castle. It's got turrets and shit. So it's like in modern day, it's like a dragon attacking a castle. There's a bunch of stuff that I've skipped over that I really like. So now I'm just going to tell you certain scenes that I absolutely loved that I literally have forgotten when they took place in the book. Most of them take place in the interludes. The interludes are from, I believe, Gwen's perspective alone, but you do get a little bit of Henry Bowers, aka Jane Nicewander. Those are really good sections, and I love them. Gwen is a great character, but I gotta say, man, my favorite characters were Van. I loved Donna. Yes, me, the damn dirty little girl, loved the Republican character, the conservative character, the T-word character. That character was so well done and shown to you in such a way that Hill was like, okay, I'm going to give you the information. I'm not going to tell you good or bad. I am going to show you how her friends react to her, but I'm not going to crap all over this character. In fact, I'm going to make this character fucking amazing so that you fall in love with this character, even though you do not agree with this character. There are going to be plenty of people who do agree with her, but there are some things that she does in this book that are absolutely unforgivable. Like some of the stories that she comes up with about seeing the person in the van that kidnapped and murdered her friend. Some of those scenes is like, oh, he was definitely brown-skinned, you know, that kind of thing. He's definitely black, definitely Mexican, that kind of thing that puts you off of her. But she also does other things that just prove that she's a human being. And I cannot fault anyone for being a human being and having faults. It's when you are shown your faults and shown the terrible things that you have done and you're like, yeah, that's good. That's when I start to judge you. With Donna, she wasn't like that. She thought for the most part, by the end, she thinks for herself and she does the right thing. Throughout the rest of the book, does that happen? No, but that builds her character, and I love that character. That redemption arc is one of my favorite redemption arcs I have ever read. So yes, I absolutely adore Donna, and I'm glad she got the entire story arc that she did. Another character that I really, really liked, but I can't really tell you why, was Robin. Robin just kind of gets shoehorned in here, and any other author would have just left it to the main group of people. But there's also another character I haven't even really mentioned yet, otherwise than by name. It's a Tana Nicewander, which is the younger daughter of Jane Nicewander and the younger sister of the lady who got killed at the beginning of the book. She's pregnant, and there's this whole underlying current of tension there too. Now, Arthur didn't get her pregnant, but Arthur ends up sleeping with her. But it was kind of, throughout the whole book, you think it was coerced, that her older sister made her sleep with Arthur because that's what her older sister made her do throughout the rest of her life. She would use her to blackmail people, to blackmail men. So Arthur ends up sleeping with her, which has this whole undercurrent, like, well, what's Gwen gonna think of this when it happens? You come to find out at the end that Tana actually wanted to sleep with Arthur, so it wasn't one of those coerced things, but Arthur's been dead at this point. So, and I also did kind of see that one coming, because Arthur was a pretty good dude, and I don't know that at that point that he sleeps with her, that he knows a whole hell of a lot about what's going on. He does assume in his own mind, and he feels terrible about it all the way through, to the point that when Gwen says, I can't love you, when King Sorrow said you can't love him anymore, when he's like, oh no, that's 100% fair, because you know what I did with Tana, and yeah, so I'm a terrible person, I'm gonna go be a monk. There's so many great sequences in this book that I could talk about, and just keep going and keep going and keep going. We're already at 34 minutes. This is an amazing book. This is an amazing achievement of the imagination. And it's also one of those books. Now, with Stephen King's It, I can understand, especially with that scene, why some people don't like the book. I can also see why some people will read it and go, God, it just goes on and on and on. This book is 200 pages less than Stephen King's It. And for all those people who go, it needed an editor, this is your book. This book never stops going. But at the same time, there's very stealthy character development in here. And I hope, I'm preaching to the choir at this point because you've read it. So I'm either trying to convince people who hate it that they should have liked it, or I'm just being like, hey guys, wasn't this awesome? And I don't see anything wrong with that, but I was going down the things like trying to get you to read it. If you've already watched this whole video, you've already read it. So I'm going to stop doing that. I love the character of King Sorrow. I did not care as much for the Elwood Hondo storyline, but it did make sense that Colin would finally be taken out by that character. It made so much sense because he was obsessed. And now here at the end, yes, we're already 35 minutes in, but now here at the end, I'm going to talk about my favorite character in the entire book. No ifs, ands, or buts, is Llewellyn, Colin's grandfather. This character is absolutely amazing, and he has this same, it almost feels like Stephen King, the way he tells stories, the way, it's something about him really made me fall in love with him. He's dying from AIDS, and one of the first deaths is Llewellyn. Gwen, well, not one of the first, but like the next one, when it's Gwen's turn, she chooses him, and the reason why she chooses him is because she wants him to have a death that isn't so painful. She doesn't want she doesn't want him to have to linger around. It was a very beautiful scene. And the whole thing with the drinking of the dragon tears and being able to breathe fire and the smoke coming out and the cinders and everything, that alone was so much better than the entirety of the Firemen. And I'm wondering if I really need to read the Firemen again, but I really don't want to. I'm wondering if these two books have anything to do with each other, because you have Dragon Scale, which is the Captain Trips of the Firemen, and then in this one you have the King Sorrow, which is the Pennywise of this book, shape-shifting, all that stuff, feeds on fear, all that good stuff. But Llewellyn's storyline was fantastic, man, and I fell in love with this character, and I knew he wasn't going to make it. Sorry about that. I thought for a second that they were going to somehow save him using King Sorrow, but it made so much more sense for it to end the way that it did, his character arc to end that way. And he's one of these characters, Llewellyn is one of these characters that you get to know, you get to love in such a short piece of time. It's a very small section of the book, but you don't want to see him go. But it is a character that lingers throughout the entire rest of the book. He's dead before page 300, and you're constantly thinking of them. You're constantly thinking of him, and the characters in the book are constantly reminiscing about him. Absolutely fantastic character. Anyways, if you've made it here to the end, probably 40 minutes, what is it? Yeah, 38 minutes and some change. If you made it all the way here, I love you for it. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey. Next Saturday, I'm going to go over all the ways that Joe Hill's King Sorrow ties into the Stephen King universe. And once again, I promised you 15 pages of notes, and you're gonna get it. I have no idea how long the video is gonna be, but it's definitely going to be probably at least as long as this one. So yeah, hopefully you've read the book, or else you wouldn't be here. Let me know your favorite parts down there in the doobly-doo. But until next time, I have been E, you have been you. This has been a spoiler review of King Sorrow. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye! Hey, if you've made it this long and you're wondering, hey, he never told us how Save Yourself, the book Save Yourself, ties in to the rest of the King family, and that's because Save Yourself is a novel by Kelly Braffett. Who is Kelly Braffett, you say? Kelly Braffett is Owen King's wife. Have a good one.